You ready, Greg?
Let's go, Jay.
You're listening to The Success Paradigm with your hosts, Jay Atkins and Greg Gray.
All right. We are here. We have there's been a road. We have been traveling a road to get here this afternoon, folks. But we are super excited to have the Gary John Bishop. So he is so far away from us right now that he actually only can come in through audio. So I think he is somewhere like down the street from Jay or something. But this is going to be an absolutely fantastic podcast. So let me do our introduction of our guest. Gary John Bishop is the author of the New York Times bestseller, Unf Yourself. And that we may get closer to saying that before this is over with. Get out of your head and into your life, which offers a refreshing, BS-free self-empowerment guide that offers an honest, no-nonsense, tough love approach to help you move past self-imposed limitations. Gary began his life, this is going to be like this. Gary began his life journey in Glasgow, Scotland. The grit and wit of his early life have contributed to his tough love, in-your-face approach to people and what it takes to change their lives. Coupled with world-class training and development, Gary has created a potent brew of effectiveness and the ability to reach through the crust of people's circumstances and root out the deeper issues that consume them and tie them down. His capacity to elevate and expand people's greatness makes his kind of real-life altering impact that is so rare in this industry. Bishop has impacted tens of thousands of people worldwide, from athletes and celebrities to Fortune 500 executives, stay-at-home moms and dads. People are his passion, and releasing untapped potential is his purpose. His work is seriously life-changing, and that is an absolute fact. So, Gary, we are glad to have you. And, we do this thing where Jay is going to do his, and I'm queuing you up, Jay. Take it away.
Yeah, Gary, I'm really excited to have you on here today, man. I talked to you about this a long time ago, and you've been busy writing a bunch of books and impacting people's lives. But I actually got an opportunity to, be in the same room as you with some guests that we invited you in to speak to. And then I got to have a lunch with my wife with you and learned a lot from you as a human being. And you helped my wife and I probably don't know this based on some conversations that you had with us about relationships and even the relationship with your wife. You are just a fascinating individual that I think is going to bring a completely different perspective to success. And I know you help people be successful in their life, become successful in their life by getting out of their own way. And I remember when I listened to your book the first time, I was just like, man, this guy is profound. I reached out to you on Instagram. Someone contacted me back to come speak because I was like, more people need to hear this guy's voice. And I want to tell everyone, when I invited you in to our meeting, I told you that it needed to be G-rated and that there was going to be some corporate people there. And you did deliver not one curse word in an hour and a half that you were on stage, which for you afterwards you said was pretty amazing. But I want you to be your authentic self today. And I want to warn people that the conversation and the words could be a little colorful. But I think Gary does a great job of putting colorful words where they need to be. And if you listen to his journey of success and what he's going to talk about today, I think you're going to come away from this. And before we end this, I want to say you must read all three of his books. I personally think they're great to listen to because he has a great accent and a great voice. Oh, it's 4 books. Sorry.
Yep.
I did that on purpose. Actually, I did that on purpose. I did that on purpose. He's writing his 5th. So they're great to listen to. They're great to read. I've done both. But Gary, I'm so excited to have you on here today. I know we've hung out a couple of times. I see you as a friend. And we've talked about expanding our relationship, but thank you for coming on here and spending time with us and spending time with our guests and inspiring them like you've inspired Greg and I.
That's awesome. Thanks so much for having me. Although I think we've got about 3 minutes left after that fucking intro.
And we're off.
You wrote the intro, the first part. I'm just saying.
That's right. Oh boy.
So Gary, what we do on here, man, is we start off because a lot of people see the glory in people's lives. People see that you're a New York Times bestselling author, and they see that you've written 4 books in the process of writing your 5th one, and you have a great life and a great family, but they don't know the story behind Gary John Bishop and all of the failures that you might have had and how you've overcome them, and why you have the mindset that you have right now from, you know, we talked about Landmark and all of that. So what I like for our listeners to hear is where it all began and where you started shaping who you are today and having this desire to help people. Because I know when you were in the room, one of the things you said to us is you just want to change people's lives. You want to impact people's lives. You're not there to motivate or inspire, but you want to change the way that they think.
Right.
And where did that start as a child or in college? Where did it all begin with you where you've become the person you are today?
You know, I'm exact same as everybody else. Okay, so I've stumbled through my life, right? Like, and anybody who tells you they're not stumbling is a fucking liar, right? I mean, everybody's kind of stumbling, and then you feel as if you've had a good series of stumbles, so it feels like you're walking or sometimes running. But it's always been like one thing to the next thing to the next thing. It wasn't until I actually started to do personal development work and work on myself in my 40s that I started to realize that I was stumbling. I started to realize, like, there's no plan here. You know, it's just like from one thing to the next thing in a way that, I mean, I was like everybody else. I'm trying to solve problems, you know, and so problems of finances and problems of fulfillment and problems of love and problems of purpose and ambition and I realized in my 40s that none of that was making me happy. Like I was as happy as anybody else, but that doesn't mean happy. You know, like I think if I died in my 40s, which sounds kind of macabre, but that's something's my thinking. But I think if I died in my 40s, my closing moments would have been, fuck. Well, like that would have been my closing moment, right? It would have just been, damn it, you know, what did I do? But luckily for me, in many ways, I kind of got awakened to, I got a perspective. I started to see myself beyond the kind of, from an altitude greater than the distance between my nose and my belly button. I started to see myself. And it wasn't pretty. I didn't like what I was seeing. I don't like, when I looked at it that way, I didn't like who I'd become. Like if you'd asked me before I started to do that work, I'd have said, yeah, I mean, I'm just an average guy, you know, trying to make ends meet and go on vacations and live in a nice home and drive a decent car and, you know, all the same junk. And then I started to kind of look way into the future and say, well, you know, what do I want to leave this earth with? Like, and I'm really deadly serious about that. Like I was, what am I going to leave the earth with? Like, what's the end for me? And what am I talking to myself about at the end, in my last conscious moments? And I realized that then that something big had to change. And I never set out, by the way, at least at that point, there was no idea that I'm going to sell millions of books and make money. And like, that was just a million miles away. I was thinking, after I started to kind of experience myself as more empowered and having a better sense of myself and a better sense of where I was headed, I realized that the only thing that was really appealing to me was empowering people. That was all I really cared about. So I used to empower people, you know, for free. Like there was no fees involved or any shit like that. I was just, how can I empower this person? But I was always interested in being able to do it from somewhere other than just good intention. Like I was interested in getting a skill, you know, and a real skill, not like read some self-help books and call myself a life coach. Like it just seems like the craziest shit ever. Like, read a book about motorcycles and I'm deciding I'm going to take over Harley Davidson, like no, it doesn't work that way, and it can't work, and it can't work that way because if you're going to coach another human being, you have to realize like you have the trajectory of their life in your hands, and that's a tremendous privilege and an unbelievable responsibility. And if you're just saying, go with your gut and shit like that, like, or believe in yourself, which is just like, what? There's got to be, you got to be able to give somebody more than that, and you got to be able to reach for a wisdom. And the only way you get to reach for a wisdom is to spend the many, many weeks and months and years absolutely devoted to uncovering it. And the work that I did on myself, and I say this unabashedly, you couldn't do the work that I've done on myself. You'd have to do the Batman treatment and head up into Tibet or something for a few years and come back out. Because that's essentially what it was like. It was like I dissolved my identity. And I'd done it very deliberately. Like I knew that everything I wanted to do, I was in the way. And that even if I wanted to empower you, there's too much ego here for me to truly be there for that. I'd have to be there. When I go to make a difference with somebody, I am truly like there for that, and that's it. I'm not there, to improve my fucking bank balance or something, which just seems silly, ultimately. And on that pathway, there's been more money and better hotel rooms. And that's about it. I'm still doing the same thing. There's nothing in, it's not like, I'm really not interested in a fucking monogram jet or something. Like, that just doesn't do it for me. I'm just like, I got an email from somebody this week who read a couple of the books and turned her life inside out and totally reinvented her relationship with her mom. And I read that email and I'm like, fucking take me now. I'm done. This is awesome. Job done. And I get those emails, and those emails make such a difference because, I'm here to be a great dad and a great husband and to be a decent human being and shake that tree for all it's got, and then I'm out.
So Gary, when you were younger, I know you've had some formal training, on self-development, like the Landmark and things that which was a very, very difficult training that you went through and learned how to develop these people. But before that, like what was your life trajectory before that? When you said you were 40 and you're like, fuck,
Right.
like what have I done? What was life before then, and you made those mistakes?
So I left high school at 16, as you did, in the 1980s in Scotland. I left high school at 16 and I got a job right away. I was straight into the workforce. And so this would have been the early 80s, 83. In 83, there was a massive employment problem in the UK. So it was like survival. If you got a job, you were one of the lucky ones, and especially if you were straight out of school and you got a job, it was like a big deal. I never went to college because it never occurred to me that I could. Like, it never landed for me that it was even something I should give an option to. I was I was an unremarkable average student in high school. And then eventually, I got this government-backed job, which was, and I'm not kidding, my first job used to pay me, I think it was like $35 a week for a 37-hour week. And then I eventually got like a government job, like I worked for the, like an administrative position in the government. But at the time I was really into music and I really wanted to be a musician. So, I've always had that kind of fuck it, let's do it attitude, like, why not, So I quit it all to become a full-time musician when I was 24. I'm like, fuck this shit. I'd rather be poor, right, than comfortable, you know. I'd rather be poor and pursuing something just great than comfortable. And people are like, you're out of your mind. And I'm like, no, you're out of yours. And then, and I had really long hair. I used to wear these green velvet pants. And I looked fucking awesome in them back there. If I tried those things on now, I'd probably get arrested, you know, for some kind of exposure or something. But anyway, I looked good in them then. And then I came to the United States in 1994, basically on a vacation, but I had this 6-month visa, or a year visa I had at that time. And I thought, I'll just goof around the States for a year, you know, just travel a bit and then come back. And then I was here for like 6 weeks, and I got this independent record label, like offered me and a friend of mine who I was with, offered us both the opportunity to make an album. And I thought, all right, I'll do it. It sounds great. So yeah, I had to sort all the visas out, like the performance visa and all that shit at the time. And then I ended up making, you know, a bunch of albums on a couple of different indie labels and toured a bit. And then it was through that process actually that I met my wife. If you saw my wife, you would realize that I used to be somebody. But anyway, because we don't match. You look at her and you look at me, you're like, something's off. Like, you know, like, so anyway, so I used to, I was a musician. And then I got into my early 30s and I thought, I can't do this forever. And I really felt as if I was just kind of done with being a musician. I loved it. It was great. It ended up like, it turned out like I was 9 years as a professional musician, touring and playing and having fun. And it was great. But I thought, I need to make some money. So I started a little business. And I had a couple of other jobs, you know, in and out, like really shitty, crappy, no money, dirty jobs. And then I taught myself how to be a flooring installer. I taught myself how to do it in 6 weeks. And then I worked with a guy and then eventually went my own way. And then I established this cool little company where I would repair damaged floors, you know, and I made a good living at it, but it was just unfulfilling. And then someone in my family said, you know, you should go do this personal development course. And I just thought, you should go fuck yourself. Because I'm not doing your stupid course. Right. And then, he was like, well, I'll do it. I'll pay for it, he said. And I said, all right, when is it? And so I did the stupid course, and it was amazing. It was eye-opening to me because I guess I've always been a little creative, but I'd never had the kind of pathway to introspect, right? It was everything that I'd ever been presented with was psychology, which just seemed, and this is my view, right? So you got to take this with a pinch of salt. This is my view. But it just seemed pointless to find out which category I am. I was just like, well, okay, so I'm one of those. What the fuck am I supposed to do? So it just seemed pointless to me. But that's not, look, psychology and therapy works for a lot of people, and if it works for you, you should ring that fucking bell until it doesn't. You know, I really believe that in my heart of hearts, but it never did it for me. So this was the first time when I got exposed to certain kind of philosophy like ontology and phenomenology and epistemology, and I started to get like, wow, like there's a way of thinking that I've never really been exposed to. Like I don't even know. So it was like I was exploring. It was like somebody had introduced me to a corner of the house that I never knew existed. And then when I looked there, I was like, oh shit. When you look at the yard from this window, the whole place looks different. And now I see things to do with the yard, and I see things to do with the house that I'd never seen before. And it made sense to me. Like that's one thing that I really loved about this was at the beginning when I started to get into this. it made sense. It was like, oh shit, yeah, like I'm a human being and I'm always being something. And what way am I being right now? And if I look at the times where my life doesn't work, let me look at the way I'm being there, and this is all clicking for me. And this is like da 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 da, like it was like the fucking. It was like, as they say, the scales had suddenly fallen from my eyes. Um, and the more I got into it, I was getting really like empowered, right? I mean, I was getting empowered at that point, and my business was going through the roof. I mean, it was crazy. I almost doubled my income in about a year. It was crazy because I was unleashed. I was like a fucking man on fire. And then, but the more I got into it, the more I realized I loved giving it away. I loved like talking to other people about it, and then people would ask me questions, and then I had answers. Like I had the ability to take things apart and put them back together in a way for people that had the scales fall from their eyes. And I would watch somebody do it, and it would be moving. I'd get completely rocked by it. And then that was it, man. I know this is what my life's got to be about. It's like a cat lady. She knows what her life's about.
So, Gary, I got to tell you, and only a few people know this because I got a chance to. I had not read your books or anything, admittedly. The first time I met you was when you came to the event that we had in DC in Maryland.
Yeah.
And so, full disclosure, so I've been doing this public speaking training thing for like 27 years. And I am incredibly tough on, I'm just not very impressed very often. In fact, I'm almost never impressed. Even when people are good. I mean, it's not like I didn't get anything out of anything that anyone said, but I was just, I always just felt like I was watching a show. And I think you can relate to what I'm talking about when I say that. When I saw you in back a year ago, October, you went to the list of the best people I'd ever seen. In fact, I knew my indication that you were impacting me the right way is that I could not sit down while you were speaking. I was in the back of the room. I physically had to stand up because I couldn't remain seated. And part of why, and I'm telling you this because it's going to lead into a question, is that a lot of people say they want to impact people's lives, and they say it almost as if that's their brand. Like, I'm the guy that impacts people a lot. It's almost like it's like their hook.
Yeah.
And which honestly, since we're in this zone today, really pisses me off because it almost, it trivializes other people's lives to say I impact people's lives just so that I impact people's lives.
Right.
But what I got from you, and what I think everybody gets from you that gets a chance to hear you, including the people in the podcast, is like, this guy's mirror is cracked too.
Right.
I mean, he's not telling me that I need to go get a perfect mirror so it can be like his perfect mirror. I mean, I was listening to a guy whose mirror is, and I'm still listening to you right now. Your mirror is still cracked.
That's right.
But you're operating in a very present way around that. One of the things that you said that is part of what you said from the stage, and I think is really cool for people to get, is when you were talking about the first time you were going to write a book,
right,
or considered writing it. And I'm just going to lead and I'll let you finish. But there was this thing about, I'm going to write this book. I know, but I'm not smart enough to write a book.
Right.
And how you made the journey from, because that's a weird place to start when you're going to write a book, when your mind is telling you, I'm not smart enough to write a book.
Right.
Talk a little bit about that journey, because that's a big one. I've written a couple of books, and writing books is hard stuff. But when you start not thinking you can do it and then make it to the other side, talk about that.
I'm actually going to talk about this in a way that I've never talked to you or Jay about it. I know this for sure. And I'm only going to talk about it because I'm just really impressed by your bow tie.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
And the absence of any decent neckwear around Jay. But anyway, so you think about it, right? You think about it like this. So each of us, as you know, human beings with a modicum of awareness of ourselves. Okay. So one of my most prevalent internal noises is I'm not smart enough. Okay. And it comes up from time to time and it goes away. And everybody who's listening to this right now, you have yours. Yours might be I'm not good enough. I'm not loved. I don't belong. I don't fit in. But you've got yours, and you might be aware of yours, or you might not be aware of yours. But your life is shaped around some very fundamental things that you talk to yourself about that you're either aware of or not aware of to one degree or another. So when I say I'm not smart enough, right? And it, I've gone down this rabbit hole many times, and I actually quite enjoy going down, because it tells me new things every time. But if you go down a rabbit hole of I'm not smart enough, right? And that's my recurring noise, and I have no say in that noise, by the way. It just comes up and then it goes away, and then it comes up and goes away, but it's recurring and it's there frequently. But then if you think about it for a minute, like the phrase I'm not smart enough, who is the I that you're referring to? So you got to kind of sit with that for a minute, right? Like, I'm not smart enough. Yeah, but what's the I you're talking about, right? And if you look and you sit with that for long enough, you can identify the I that you're talking about when you say I'm this or that or the next thing. And so the I that I'm talking about when I say I'm not smart enough is a persona that I've become. But it's not me. It's a persona. It's a set of behaviors and thoughts that are bundled together that I identify with and I refer to as I. So when I was writing my book, the first book, that thought was there every freaking day. That thought was there. Every time I went near the laptop, that thought was there. But I really got grounded in that I'm not that thought. It's just a thought. I don't have to. I can either live my life aligned with that, dominated by that, a slave to that, or I could just do something else. And it wasn't complicated. I'm not trying to defeat it. I'm not like, it's not a war between the noise in my head and me. No, it's like you're getting married, you have to find a way to coexist. Right? You have to find a way, right? Like when they don't close the drawers the way you like it, or they park the car at weird fucking angles, or like you can resist all that shit, or you can just be like, oh, I just need to find a way to exist here. And so I encourage people to get that with a noise in your head. It's part, and I emphasize the part of you, that the more you just get aware of it and realize that there it is, and it comes and goes. And a long time ago, I gave up the idea of trying to make that noise go away, because I noticed the more I tried to do that, the more it was there. It was like it really is that for whatever you resist persists. That's a bumper sticker, but there's a reality to that. Like if you try to make a mosquito bite go away, it's more annoying, right? But if you can let it be, you realize you can function quite well with that mosquito bite. In fact, you barely even notice that it's there. In fact, it doesn't even itch anymore because your attention's on something else. And that's how I am with a noise in my head. I have a noise in my head like everybody does. I just don't. I no longer see it as something that I need to defeat or overcome. I get that it can be there, but it's not me. Because if it was me, it would say something better than "you're not fucking smart enough."
It wouldn't be as insulting.
No, it would be like, "You're amazing, you're awesome." You know, it doesn't say that. It says, "You're a fucking idiot. What are you doing? You don't know what you're doing. You're never going to be smart enough. Look at those people. They're smart. You're a fool." Like, all right, okay, I hear you. No, let me finish this paragraph.
Hmm.
And that's what I do.
So that's how you deal with that voice, or that already always listening voice in your head that record player is playing over. How do you, because everyone has that. Like, I don't care how successful you are,
Right,
everyone has that voice. So when you're in that exact moment,
right.
how do you overcome it in that moment? Like, to be able to write that next paragraph, to be able to write the next chapter, or to be able to accomplish whatever it is that you want to accomplish.
Yeah, sometimes I'll smile. Like, I'll just smile. And you can alter your chemical makeup just by forcing a fucking grin across your mug. And you can, like, you will, the endorphins will go. So I'll smile. I'll go get a cup of coffee. I'll quote some Sartre to myself. That it's meaningless, right? That it's meaningless. Like, but so what? So what if I say that to myself? So what, you fucking idiot? What are you doing? Doesn't mean anything. And then and this is like one of the great bits of leverage you have as a human being. And the leverage is when you're authentically there for something, the noise becomes like bankrupt. Like, it doesn't even matter. Like, when I'm writing a book, I'm authentically writing up. Like, I get myself in the shoes of the men and women who are going to read this, and the state that they're in, and the mess of their life, and how they got themselves there. And you know, I really mean it. Like the single moms and the unemployed dads, and like the list of people who are either they've been fucked over or they fucked themselves over. I'm there for them when I'm writing those words. So it seems a little self-indulgent to be like, oh yeah, and there's a voice in my head that says I can't do it. Like, that's kind of small, like when you say, listen, you look somebody dead in the eye and you say, listen, I'm going to work with you and we're going to straighten your fucking life out. But hold on a minute while we talk about what's going on in mine. Right? It's kind of small and petty and shitty. And I think, look, that's kind of where we end up as human beings. We end up like just, and I really mean it this way. I'm not going to hold it back. Like, we indulge our shit and we indulge it and we give up the idea that we have a say in it. And so it becomes the biggest thing in our lives. Like, it's the biggest thing in my life, how to be happier. Biggest thing in my life is how can I be confident? That's the fucking biggest thing you're up to? Like that? Like, want to be confident? Like, what the fuck? Like, seriously? Like, really? Like, I am reading a lot of books. Like, what the I mean, just think of the lives you could have impacted in that time. And I'm a little more confident than I used to be. Like, what? Come on. I don't fucking care about confidence. Who cares? Do it.
So Gary, I have to share something. And I think, obviously when we talk about success, I know like your family is really, really important to you. And that for you is success. And we're going to get into that later, but having a conversation with my wife and you, I want you to share something that was pretty profound for me and has actually created a lot of success in my marriage since meeting with you.
Yeah.
Again, not shared with you, but I ask you a simple question because, when you have a conversation with Gary, the way you think and process, it's way different. It's outside of the box of the way that most people think. And I just thought, as a Gary, you probably don't fight with your wife very much, like just you, because you have control of of the mind, seemingly, right? And you were like, I fucking fight with her all the time, and I fucking love it.
Yeah.
And you also said to me, like, you know, you're like, you know,
Like,
we'll have a big fight, and then 15 minutes later, she's like, you picking up the kids? And you're like, yeah. And you said to me something that really helped me, and that was, when I married my wife, I made a fucking decision, and I'm staying married forever. And no matter what we fight about, like, it's never an option in my head that there's going to be anything different besides I'm going to be married to my wife. And I was like, you know what? I've never ever said that to myself about my wife. But more importantly, I used what you said about my wife, used it with my wife, but I used it for things in my life that I wanted to have success in too. Like, once I made a decision, and it's a tool. So I want you to kind of talk about like that, you know, that shift in your mind, and kind of how you teach people about that.
all right, I'm going to give you a very simple analogy, right? And this is how people operate in relationships. So imagine there you are, you get in the pool, okay? And you go into the pool and you go all the way up to your chin and you say, I'm not sure whether I want to be wet or not.
And there you go.
And that's the whole fucking marriage right there. See, you're in. So why are you even talking about not being in? You're in. You're wet. So this is your choice. Either work out wet for yourself or get the fuck out. But don't stand there pondering whether you want to be wet or not. Because you're wet. And that's the whole point of being like, I say to people, both feet in your relationship, right? Why do I say that? Because both your fucking feet are in. I mean, in your mind, you might think you're one in, one out, but you are in fact both feet in. And so what if you function like both feet are in? Rather than thinking both feet are in or one foot's out or what about this and maybe I'll do that. What if you just functioned like you're in? And the example I like to use is for people that are parents. I mean, it's not like you wake up one day and you say to your fucking 5-year-old, you know, I'm not sure whether this is working out for me. Why? Because you're both feet in. You function like both feet are in. It's never a question. There's no point when you're getting the kids together and saying, listen, I'm moving out. And I mean, I went into this with the best of intentions, had a lot of great ideas about what I want, but I just don't feel as if you guys are bringing it and I'm not getting what I'm looking for here. So I'm moving out. We'll split things up. And your 8-year-old's looking at you like, what the fuck's going down here? What are we doing? But that is how we are in our love relationships. And when you love somebody, it doesn't mean you love them like, oh, I fucking love you. Right? It doesn't mean, sometimes it means that, right? But when you love somebody, it means, to me anyway, it means I'm in. I'm in. You get me. I get you. And we're just going to work this shit out. And you do have to work things out sometimes. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you're just kind of ambling along, drinking coffee. You know, it's all good. But then there are other times when it seems like, and this is when I know, by the way, I think this is a good indicator for people. When your eyes on your partner and what they're doing and how this is going, you're missing the point. You're no longer focusing on how we're doing and how this relationship's doing. And if you're not doing that, it's kind of like staring at one tree in the fucking garden while the garden goes to hell, and you're not tending it anymore. And but I think it's awesome to fight. I don't get the big deal. Like, there's nothing. My wife can tell me to go fuck myself, and I'm like, okay. I don't have a problem. I mean, she's frustrated about something. I mean, you know, all right, I get it. It's not like, okay, those are not those words, we can't,
Got it.
no, I mean, I have no problem with arguing with my wife. It's good sometimes to get that out. But at the end of it, it doesn't mean it. It doesn't, it's not like, oh, we've argued 4 times this week, so clearly this doesn't work. I know, but, we got along and did great things for the rest of the fucking time.
Right.
Like, and I really mean this in like the most stupid ways, but, my wife and I work, it works. But not like a Hallmark card. It doesn't work like that. It's not like, we look at each other across the fucking dinner table and, get all gooey inside. I look at her across the dinner table and the first one that blinks doing the fucking dishes.
So Gary, I've one of the more fascinating things about being in your presence is when people ask you questions in the audience. And so I've seen this in a couple of different settings before.
Yeah.
And it, for anyone that is listening to this podcast, if you ever have the opportunity to be in the same space with Gary and there's Q&A. So my advice would be to you is let someone else go first. That would be the first thing I would tell you to do is let someone else go first. And I've seen this has happened in more than one setting, so I'm not putting anyone's business out here, but you were talking a few minutes ago about you're in the pool. Why are you contemplating being wet, basically? And I've heard you be asked more than one time a question that basically falls into the gist of it is, well, how do I know I'm on the right path? Like, how do I know I'm getting in the right pool in the first time? How do I know that my life is on the right trajectory, that I'm doing the right thing for me?
Yeah.
And your answer is, of course, it's always very tailored to the person that's asking, because you read people very well. But in a general sense, how do I know I'm on the right path? How do I know I'm in the right pool in the first place, especially if I'm trying to get to what I perceive to be my ultimate goal, which is to be happy, which is what people say their goal is. How do I know?
Well, mostly, so I'm going to answer this from a little different perspective.
Well, Greg's asking for himself, just so you know, Gary. So you could use him as that person in the audience.
See, look, I could take you right now and plunk you on, quote unquote, the right path, and you'd be asking yourself, am I on the right path?
You're right.
Right. And here's the reality. You're on the path. Is it the right path? Who fucking knows? Who cares? It's the path. It's like, I don't feel as if I'm using my wife for the right thing. Then use it for the right thing then. Right. But don't like that. You got to get like that whole notion of, am I on the right path? I'm on the wrong path. That's a spectator. You're up and out and observing and judging your life. You're not in it. And when you're in it, you don't care whether you're on the right path. Like being married, I wonder if he or she's the right one for me. I mean, that's completely the wrong place to come from. The place is, okay, here I am. What do I want to make this about? Right. So I'm not a big fan of pathways like that. I'm not a big fan of getting your life on the right pathway, because you're always on the pathway you're on. And you really are, like, you're on this pathway of whatever the fuck you're doing. And it's your job to be your biggest, brightest, boldest, self-expressed self on that pathway. It's not about being on the right one. It's about, are you fully giving it your all where you're at? And that's always my concern when people are asking that. I'm always left with, what are you holding back? What are you retaining? What are you unabashedly you shaking the fucking tree, going for it, giving it all you got, like a shining fucking light for the universe? Or are you kind of just foraging your way forward, hoping that this turns out? I really don't believe, unless it's really detrimental, right? So if you're a drug addict or something, I think that might be the wrong path, right? But in general terms, in one's life, there's only the path you're on, and if you really are like giving that your all, that'll continue to unfold in front of you in new and exciting ways. I really feel as if the big problem that we have as human beings is trying to stabilize something that we've accomplished when we forget that it was like kind of unabashed, fucking chaotic, relentless pursuit that got us there.
Certainty.
Right. So we go into that space of like, oh, how can I just embellish what I've got or keep what I've got? You don't get to keep what you got. You don't get that. You don't get the love you had 20 years ago. You got to fucking plow in and discover and uncover and find out and express a whole other kind of love, because that's what you did back then. You were,
yeah.
And so it's crazy how we do that though, but major mistake for us as human beings.
Gary, a couple of things that I want to bring up that I think is also good for people, because I think people really want to find success in their life, and they just, this voice in their head that you're talking about. But something that I think was another profound moment at our event was when you were talking about wanting something in your life and, how bad you want it, what you're willing to do. And you gave the analogy of, does anybody in the room have a child? And I raised my hand, and you said, if your child got kidnapped and they called you and they said they wanted $10,000 to get your kid back, and you had no money in the bank, I bet you it would take you 15 minutes to find that $10,000 to get your child back.
Right.
And if you had that same notion, activity, mindset towards success in your life or what you want in your life, a lot of people would have that. So, why don't you talk about that? And then I want to talk about after that really quickly of someone that raised their hand in the audience and said, you think I'm going to change my life in 15 minutes after listening to you speak? And then just kind of what your reply to what that is.
Yeah. So people will fight for being stuck. Right? En masse. So I'll say to them, success is easy. And they'll say, well, hold on a minute there, Mr. Scottish man. And then I say, you see, but you should be where I am. You should be standing here with me saying, yeah, let's do it. But you're not. You're going to sit there and pick apart what I'm saying. Because if what I'm saying is the truth, you're fucked. And you'd actually have to do something now. Because what I'm saying is the truth, like quote unquote. So people will fight for being stuck. People will fight. And I really mean like fight. I mean, I have literally had a fucking chair thrown at me because I said to somebody that you're a self-righteous asshole in your relationship with your parents. And you just spent your whole life being a whiner, a bitcher, and a moaner, and you've blamed them for it. And now your life's in the shit, and it's still their fault, and one of them's dead. How the fuck do you work that out? You don't know me! I said, well, I know an asshole when I see one. And the chair came flying, and then he stormed out, and I said, that's the best decision you've made all day. I'm from Glasgow. We don't take too well with people throwing fucking chairs at us. But he came back. The guy came back, and he said, no one's ever talked to me like that before. And I said, well, that's the problem. That's a problem. You indulge people in your story and in your circumstance, and then they say, yeah, you're right. And I don't. And I really believe all people have tremendous potential. And I mean, all people have tremendous potential. And, you would be shocked at the number of them who are trying to talk me out of that. not have me talk them into it.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to talk me out of it. I'll say, well, this is what it takes to make your marriage work. And they'll say, yeah, but let me tell you about my marriage though. And I say, I already fucking covered this. And they'll say, well, no, but you see, in my situation, and I say, I've already covered this. And then they'll say, but what you're saying is I should do this. And I'm like, well, you're the one that says you want a happy marriage. The question is, now that I've told you, do you? And that's the same with people when it comes to success. I say, well, that's just how you do it. Oh, I can't do that. Is there another way? Like I'll say, well, it's relentless action. And it's actions day upon day upon day upon day. And then they'll say, well, what else can I do though? And I'll say, and then they'll say, what if I do if I'm not motivated? I say, you should do it anyway. But what if I'm not motivated? I'll say, you should do it anyway. How do I get motivated? I'm like, just fucking do it. Do it when you're down. Do it when you're not feeling it. Do it when you're suppressed. Do it when you're fucking pissed off. Do it when you feel like you can never get it done. Do it then. So it's often getting people to realize the degree to which they make a case for the life they've got, and that's what they're really addicted to. Like there's only one thing that I've ever really found all human beings will fight to the death for, and I've heard it said, religion and their faith, and I'm like, no, they won't fight to the death for that. Human beings will fight to the death for what they believe in. And if you believe that success is in the distance, if you believe in your heart of hearts that love with the person you're with is impossible, you'll fight for it. And it's funny, you watch people do it in some ways, but then kind of lame, kind of like, really, it always comes down to the same thing for me. Like, this is what we're doing. We're going to spend an hour with me trying to convince you that you should be successful, right? And then you telling me why you can't. And if you invested as much time and effort into why you can, then you'd probably open up a lot more doors for yourself mentally. Like, people are far more fascinated by what's been than what's to come. Far more fascinated, far more passionate about their past than they are about their potential.
Well, that, and I think there's a reason for that. And Jay kind of whispered it a few moments ago, because I know one of the things he took from your lunch conversation with he and Jimena was the idea of certainty.
Yeah.
And I think people are more enamored with their past because they know it. It's what happened yesterday is 2 days from now, it's the same thing that happened on Sunday. So it will never change. But forward looking, people want something. They want the same certainty about what's going to happen. And there is no such thing as basically what I'm boiling that down to from what Jay shared with me. But it's what we want. It seems to be this thing that we seek.
Let me give you some of that though. Like, think about this.
Okay.
How fucking arrogant is it, right? And you got to get like the complete and utter fucking arrogance of your basic senses coupled with some neuronal patterns of memories. That's the limit of the universe. How fucking arrogant is that? Right? I mean, that's like, like I say to people, do you feel as if you could change? And they say, it would be really tough, but I think I could do it. And then I'll say, but what about your dad? Do you think he could change? And they're like, fuck no. And then I go, how fucking arrogant is that? Like, you can do it, but he can't. Like, you could transform like a fucking butterfly, but your mom can't? Why not? And I'll tell you why not, because you're dug in. Like you're dug in about people, you're dug in about life, you're dug in about yourself. You're dug in. And you're the one with a shovel. And every word that falls out your mouth puts you deeper in the hole. Or not.
So I've got a question for you. I know the thing about trying to be present in a way that to lend value to other people and to be able to impact their ways in a really genuine way. And like I said, not a esoteric, surface dweller type of way.
Yeah.
So the question I have for you, Gary, is what is the thing that you have to get out of your own head about more than anything else?
I mean, I do this all the time. No, I think I'm getting pretty good at it, but it's not about me. It's just not, and I don't mean it's not about me like it's got nothing to do with me. I mean, the minute that I'm in the equation, this isn't going anywhere. So I don't write books for me. Being a dad isn't about me. Being a husband isn't about me. Being a human being isn't even about me. What the minute I make it about me, the world gets pretty fucking small, man. And I'm interested in a big world, and I'm interested in being a big voice. And you can't have any of that if it's a fucking career move. Right? And I've heard it. I get approached by people all the time. Like, I've always wanted to coach people. I'm like, spend 4 years getting your shit sorted out, and then go talk to people about that. And then you might have something interesting to say. Until then, you're just a walking, talking, fucking bullet point list of strategies.
Yep. And so, I'm laughing kind of in my head, but this is one of the reasons I like talking to you so much is the it's not about me thing. So the first book that I wrote, I didn't know, I thought it was going to be about leadership or business or anything like that. It turned out to be a book called Dad from a Distance. About how non-custodial fathers can still operate. A child in a fatherless home doesn't have to have a fatherless life, basically, is the point of it.
Yeah.
So I was doing, one of these things where it's kind of like, they, got a 6-foot table and one of those pull-up signs and pictures of the books everywhere.
Yeah.
And the guy came by the table and he walked by 3 times. And this is why what you're saying is so true. He walked by the table 3 times. And I didn't notice the first 2 times, but the third time he actually was kind of glaring at me. And then he came by the 4th time and he stopped and he just looked at me and he said, "What do you know about that?" And that was the whole thing for him is do not trivial, because you could tell this was him, but he was ready to be angry if I was trivializing this and making it an academic exercise about being a non-custodial father. I had to, in his eyes, know what the hell I was talking about before he would engage me in any peaceable way. And that's when you say, go work on yourself first. Because if you can't do that in a genuine way, why are you wasting time or wasting my money trying to help me with something that you haven't even resolved yet?
Right.
And
I can't see, look, I don't have to have walked your walk to know pain. I don't have to have lived your life to know disappointment, to know isolation, to know rejection, to know, like, I didn't experience those experiences in the same circumstance, but I know that experience.
Right.
I know what that is to be on the outside looking in. I know what it's like. I know that visceral experience of looking around and not everyone's the same as me. Like for whatever reason, it doesn't matter. I know that feeling. I know the feeling of being different, right? So whether I'm on welfare, or my mom's not there, or my dad's not there, or like the list goes on and on and on. So that's what I always try. I always try and get past the layers of circumstance and get to the humanity of it. Like there's an experience of being a human being that I know that you know, and we had them in different places in a different era and a different but I know that experience and you know that experience, and when we can connect on that experience, you know, I got you, you got me, and we're connected. And I really feel as if half the time that's all I'm doing. I'm just kind of getting underneath. People want to give me all that stuff about, you know, and then I'll say, what was that like for you? And they would say heartbreaking, and I'm like, be there. I know that heartbreak. And then I'll say, what's it been like living that way though, with that heartbreak? And then you're connected. And then you're there. And then we're there for what's required. We're not there to fucking sell a book or some shit. You know, we're not there to, you know, promote my online presence or some fucking crap. Like, we're there for you to resolve something that's been unresolved for you for a long time. And so I don't engage with the world from what makes me different. And I really fucking don't. I mean, I'm not sick. I know people, oh, you know, we're all the same. Like, but they don't really come from there. I come from there. I come from where, like, you might be 92 and lived through the Depression and all that shit that went with that. But those life experiences, that experience of being a human being, of hopelessness, being there. I know that feeling. I know that feeling, like I feel I got nothing. Or the feeling of elation when I feel as if I accomplished something. I know that feeling. I know what that's like. And when you can get there with people, that's when people are very open to the idea that you might be able to make a difference with that. When they get like you were pointing to, like, oh yeah, you know this. And that's why, you know, I've done what I've done, not only with my books are like bestsellers and fucking places that blow my mind. I'm like, holy shit, like I've never even fucking been there. And the books are like international, you know, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of copies sold. And, you know, I went to fucking Poland last year and I was up on a billboard in Poland. I'm like, what the fuck? It's the weirdest, you know. Like, I hope nobody recognizes me, you know. I'm just here to sign a few books and try some Polish coffee. But yeah, I really believe, like, that's a big issue that I have with the personal development industry, that it's an industry. It's a problem for me, you know, and I get why it's an industry and it's fine, but like every industry, then you've got genuine, what I'm going to call players, and I don't mean the big names. I mean genuine people who are there for what needs to get done there. And then you just get this ocean of bullshit. Just like this kind of hodgepodge of spirituality, psychology, bit of fucking Zen Buddhism, a little bit of, you know, whatever thrown in there. And then people talk like they know what the hell they're talking about. And I'm not saying that from a pedestal, like, oh yeah, I know what I'm talking about. But from my angle, the angle that I come from, yeah, I'm pretty good from my angle. Like I'm solid. Like if you come to me and you want to hear a perspective, I'm rock solid. I'm not flying around just looking for answers. I'm going to give you something that you'll either take or not take. And if you don't like it, fine, go do fucking yoga. Um, but I nothing wrong with yoga, by the way, but it's just not what I'm going to do. Right? I'm not going to go like, okay, so take that leg.
So Gary, you started this podcast off talking about, being 40 and saying, like, if I died now, I would just be like, fuck, like I didn't leave. I'm not going to leave this earth with anything. I came in and I left, I didn't leave anything. And that statement, that legacy is important for you. And what I know is most important to you in the conversations that we had as your kids. I know you train your kids in soccer. Every time we've had a conversation, it's about how amazing your kids are at soccer. You've got one that you think is going to be pro.
Yeah.
So I know your kids are important, and all the work that you do, I know you kind of want to leave them with a piece of yourself to kind of carry on this piece that you want them to leave the earth with and impact lives.
Yeah.
So if there were 3 things that you were going to leave with your kids, and it was time, and it was that for message on to help more people after you leave.
Yeah.
What 3 things?
I mean, I think the biggest thing I want every human being to get is it doesn't mean anything. Right. So no matter where you might find yourself, it doesn't mean anything. It's all just bullshit. And no one will even know how fucked up you were 20 fucking minutes from now, let alone 20 decades from now. Right. I mean, I don't know what was going through Shakespeare's head when he was writing, and I don't fucking care. He wrote great shit. So it doesn't mean anything. I want my children to really get that it doesn't mean anything. And so in your darkest moments, it's somewhere for you to sit. Yeah, it doesn't mean anything. And then the other thing I'd want them to get is you don't need to believe in yourself to do great things. I think it's another one of that self-help fucking voodoo. You don't need to believe in yourself. All you have to do is give yourself fully to what you're doing. That's it. Just give all of yourself to what you're doing. And then the last thing is love them like there's no tomorrow.
Love what?
Love them like there's no tomorrow. Just fucking love them like there's no tomorrow. Like love them, love them, love them, love them. And I've come to realize this as I've gotten older. You can't hurt me because I love you too much. I'm not penetrable that way. Like you can't hurt me. I'll just love you back and fuck you. So you don't have a choice in it. I'm just going to, and I really authentically mean this. Like I authentically love people. Like I love them, but not in like, let me walk up to a stranger in the street and give them a hug. But I do. Like I admire people. Like I love the fucking underdog. I love the struggler. I fucking love them. I'm just like, yeah, come on, let's do it. Not so that everybody can become Mark Cuban or something, But everybody can have satisfaction and love and accomplishment, connection. Everybody can have a bit of that action. That's all out there. It's all available. And I don't care how fucked up things were in your past. So yeah, like I want my boys to know that I really want them to get, and they do. I talk about this a lot. It doesn't mean anything. Especially soccer's a great teacher. All we need to be ready for is the next play. This one's already gone.
So one of the, you gave me personally, and I'm speaking this time, Jay, I actually am talking about me and not some theoretical person that Gary's talking to. I think the biggest gift you gave me when I heard you speak, and I think it's probably, I mentioned earlier that found myself standing up. And this was not standing up. For those that are listening, I was not me standing up and applauding in the middle of your speech. It was just standing up because I couldn't. My legs straightened and they would not fold again to allow me to sit back down in the chair.
Yeah.
And I think this is a gift you gave to a lot of people that day. And I think about it often. Jay and I have talked about it a lot. In fact, we've talked to our employees about it. We talked to our families about it. And it's the idea, the gift was, keep your word to yourself.
Right.
Because I remember, and for the people that are watching this and listening to it now and will listen to it later, let me tell you, if the sum total of all the money you had in the bank was the sum total of how much Gary John Bishop's books cost, I would tell you to spend every penny on those books. And I mean that. I totally mean that. You would be, your reward would be fivefold by the next day. But the thing that you told us that day that I want our listeners to hear is, and it's I was talking about, what do I need to get out of my head about most? And I think that you nailed it when you said that we concern ourselves more with keeping our word to other people than we do keeping our word to ourselves. And we will even sacrifice the word that we make, the promise we make to ourselves,
Right.
To keep promises to other people. And that just floored me. I mean, honestly, and I apologize. I should have apologized to you then. I don't remember what you said for the next 15 minutes. Honestly,
Yeah.
After you
It
said
wasn't
that.
very good anyway. So
Yeah. Well, I was in the moment.
Yeah.
When did you figure that out for you?
So this was probably about 12 years ago when I really got, there was no limit to what I could produce as long as I kept what I said true. And this is probably for anybody who's got like self-esteem issues or something, right? The reason why you don't relate to yourself like a powerful human being is because you don't hold yourself to be one. Right? So you don't hold yourself to be one. That is, you will literally talk yourself out of being one. So I'll give you, a little example, which I talk about all the time, is how many times do you go to bed and say, I'm going to get up on the first alarm ring tomorrow? And then the alarm goes off and you remember that you told yourself you were going to get up the first time and you're like, 5 more minutes. Right?
Word broken.
Right.
Yep.
And then, I know, but you went to your bed and it seems like nothing, right? And look, I get it. It's nothing, right? But then what about that time you said you were going to finally clean out that closet, but I'll do it next weekend? Or that time when you said, tomorrow I'm going to start my run or my fast, or I'm really going to start making a dent in that fucking credit card. I've had enough of this shit, like paying interest on that this whole time. So I'm going to pay. Well, I really need to think about getting back to school. I've said, and that book that I was going to write, I'm going to get a laptop. That's what I'll do. I'll buy myself a laptop. I'll get that thing fucking started once I've got the laptop, but I'm kind of doing a lot of Googling right now. So I'll get to that book, but it'll come. Like we do it. And if you think of a lifetime of that, as the waistline expands, as the bank balance deteriorates, as the promotions slip further and further away, as the book becomes, maybe I'll just do an audio book, I'll just talk into a type machine and I'll be good enough. On and on and on. And then you wake up one day and you're like, I just got nothing, man. I'm so fucking jaded. And the reason why you're so jaded is because you don't treat yourself like you're somebody you should listen to. You treat yourself like you're somebody you should occasionally just, ignore and I mean that like your sense of self. I'm not talking about the noise in your head. I'm talking about your sense of self. Like if someone treated you the way you treat you, you would never be their fucking friend.
Wow.
You just wouldn't. You'd be like, oh, you asshole. The amount of times you said you're going to come meet me, you never came. The amount of times you said you're going to do that for me, you never did it. Like, I'm no way you're my friend. So, and then you wonder why you're disjointed. So, in life, if you're somebody you're not at the bottom of the ladder, like you're under the ladder, right? Like you dream of a fucking ladder. You're so far down, right? One of these days, you might see a ladder is your fucking aim in life. Your way there is to begin a process of realizing that what you tell yourself you're going to do is the most important thing you'll ever say. And in fact, every time you tell yourself you're going to do something, it's an opportunity for you to honor that. And when I say honor it, it means treat it like it actually fucking means something. Like treat it like I told myself I was going to do that. And that's important. That's a big fucking deal that I told myself. I might have told myself I'm going to do it in a moment of positivity or elation or something. Like, oh, I'm feeling good about shit. Oh, this is it. This is my week. Yeah, but when you're down and you realize you told yourself that, you don't write that off. You say, well, this is the moment where what I said is on the line. And then what happens is you do it. And then you're sitting there in the glow of like, holy shit, I did it. Like I did it. I actually wrote the first page of my book. Oh my gosh. And then you get up the next day and you write another half a page or 2 paragraphs or a paragraph or whatever. And then you're building this relationship with yourself. And more specifically, you're building this relationship with your word and the word that you gave to yourself. And that's when people really start to realize like the amount of times you will completely sell out on who you are in favor of the way that people think of you. And that's dishonorable. There's no honor in that. And it's an act of treason. Treason against who? Against you. And that treasonous act will cut a deep wound into your sense of self. And it's not always easy, by the way, to take a stand for yourself or to stand for what you said. But that is your freaking job. And the more you work at that job, the better you'll get at it. And the better you get at it, the more you'll see success lines itself up with you in ways that you couldn't even have imagined 2, 3, 4 months before.
You know, you said, and I feel like I'm channeling myself back to that same moment when I heard you say these things the first time. But what I took from this, and you may have actually said this, but I might have blacked out, you know, that part of the speech, I don't remember, was the further your life and how your life is going is directly connected to how far away you are from keeping your word to yourself.
Right.
I hate exercise, and Jay knows this, and he is, you know, always on me about, you know, Greg, are you exercising? Are you exercising? You're exercising. And even then, and it wasn't working, and it wasn't working because it wasn't me saying it; it was Jay saying it. And so the thing that I want people to hear from this is that keeping your word to yourself can be the hardest thing you've ever done.
Right.
But I hate exercise, but I exercise in the morning, every morning, Gary. This is the takeaway that I thank you for, is that when I start kind of grumbling, I say, okay, I'm going to exercise. Why? Because I said I was going to.
Right.
And it's that simple.
That's all the evidence you need, by the way.
Yeah. It's not. I think we make things so big and we have so many layers because, you know, the layers protect us and we can bullshit people by how many layers we have. But the point is I'm picking up these damn weights because I said I was going to.
All right, let me offer you something else. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to make $100,000 in the next 30 days because I fucking said I would.
Mm.
Now, you have no idea how the hell you're going to get that done, but that's now the game. And I got 30 days. Now, those kinds of games, I love that shit. I love like putting my word to shit that I have no fucking idea how I'm going to do that. Like, I have no idea. And that's the first part of the game. Like, I need to work. You start to see your life in terms of promises, like that you honored your word in those areas. Like, what would it? Most people say, and I hear this all the time, I double my income. Yeah, but why don't we just make it 10 times though? What's the fucking problem here? Like, just go for 10 times your income. What's the worst that can happen? I didn't quite fulfill on my word. I only managed 6 times my income. I acknowledge I didn't fulfill on my word. Here's what I delivered on, and here's what I'm up to now. I mean, it really is like when you get your word on the line with something, it sets the game.
Big shit too.
Right. Like, so it starts with, all right, I'm getting out of bed at this time, and I'm damn it, I'm lifting those weights, right? I'm doing it, right? The more you do it, the more you realize that what you're breaking up is the you that you've known yourself as. And what you're bringing to the table is this new, expanding, exploring you. And the old you is constantly trying to call you back. So the old you's like, and a good place for you to examine the old you, by the way, is in the presence of that exercise. Like, that's all the you that you had become. And you're saying, no, I'm going to break this shit up. So you're using these moments where you're kind of getting questioned. What's in your ear is all the desire for things to be the same.
That persona you were talking about.
Right. And then what you're doing is you're saying, oh, but this promise lives outside of these feelings. So I feel this way, but this promise lives outside of that. My job is to fulfill on the promise in the presence of those old feelings. That's my job. That's a new kind of you showing up. That's not the you that you would typically be. You take that you and you apply that to other areas of your life, you are reinventing yourself. You're breaking up old patterns, old neuronal patterns, old emotional behaviors. And you're setting your stall for something new, for something remarkable, like to explore what truly it is to be a human being rather than a character.
Yep. Well, Gary, we're running on an hour and 23 minutes. So it's like almost like a Joe Rogan podcast even here, because but this is really, really good. So I want to finish with just some really quick hit questions about you, and then I'm going to do a recap. But what is one habit that you do, Gary, every single day that you think's created success in your life? Like every day, this is what I do. I know it's not get up early, and I'm not looking for drink coffee, but what's a good habit that you work on every day?
All right, so I actually get up when I wake up. So if I wake up at 3, I'm getting up. I don't try to go back to sleep. So I'm not like addicted to, and I generally don't wake up any later than maybe 6 anyway. So I get up when I wake up. And then the other thing that I like to do in my life, I'm trying to look right now and see if I do this every day. Yeah, I mean, I pretty much fucking do this every day. So every day I put something in my laptop that I want to say. So every day I have like so I've probably written enough for maybe another, I don't know, 4 books, right? I've probably written enough. And it's all just in these kind of long word files, all filled with various things that I'll go into every now and again and like, oh, what the fuck was I thinking about there? That's weird. Or, oh, whoa, that's cool, man. Let me get myself back into that train of thought. But I don't use it to write books, but I do use it to allow myself to think. So I do like recording my thoughts and throwing them onto my laptop, which is probably why the camera's not working.
That's really good.
Yeah.
And what does success mean to Gary John Bishop?
Oh boy, it's such a fucking moving target.
No, exactly. I'm saying right now in 2020, COVID-19, writing your fifth book, what does success mean to you right now in this moment? Like, what is that definition for you?
Oh, it's I can't get away from it. It's just being of service.
That's a great one.
Yeah, to my wife, to my sons, to my friends, to.
And I need listeners to hear what Gary's saying right now. I mean, really, the first thing you say, be of service. You've sold millions of books, but the first thing you say is my wife, my kids, my friends. And then, that's the most important thing to be of service to first. You can't be of service to anybody else if you're not of service to them. I believe. And I think.
Right. It's like truly being of service to something. It's not a cape. You can't just pull it on and show up. I go to the fucking supermarket. I'm of service. Like I've done this more times than I care to remember, but I remember going to fucking Best Buy about a year ago, and somebody was just huffing their way through the interaction with me, and I'm like, "You okay?" I'm like, "Are you all right?" And they're like, "No, I'm fine." And then it all came out like this person was struggling with their sexuality, and it was all just. I'm like, I got it, man. And then I've got this brilliant singing voice, and I've never done anything with it. I'm like, why not? You should be organizing your life around your self-expression. And it took about 9 minutes, and luckily there was no one else in line. But what am I going to do? You think I'm just going to pretend that wasn't there? Like I walk up to somebody and I hear something falling out of their mouth, and I'm going to stand there and go, okay, let's just pretend that never happened. How can I be authentic? How can I really say that I am who I am if I walk past that?
Yeah. That's what you're here for, man. We saw it live and in person a couple different times. I saw it intimately with my staff, and I think they were all shocked. And with strangers from all over the U.S. You did it. People. One of my good friends stood up and you pegged him. And at the airport, he was like, "Did you tell him? Did you tell him to like?" I was like, "Dude, the lights were blinding. He couldn't even see who you were. Like, no, dude, he just pegged you. Like, you're very obvious." So I know you're a big philosophy guy and you read a lot of philosophy books, but what are, besides the 4 books that you've written, what are the 3 most recommended books you would recommend to people to read? Outside of, everyone needs to pick up every single one of your books, listen to it, like I said in the beginning. But what do you read?
Oh man, if I actually told you what I read, you'd be like, huh? Right? Most of it is obscure.
I want to know personally.
Right. So, but a book that I think a lot of people get a lot of value out of is Man's Search for Meaning.
Oh, we read that. That's an awesome book. Yep.
There's so much value.
Right there.
Right, Viktor Frankl.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much value in that fucking book, an immediate value in that book. But I'm not a big I've read, most like Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. I read that book. It was a great book. It was interesting. But at the same time, I wouldn't say that I'm somebody who you could rely on for a book that you can read. Go ahead and read fucking Heidegger's Being in Time. But, we'll talk in 10 years once you've managed to work your way through some of it. Because it's not an easy read. I mean, but I always go back to my favorite philosophers. If you want to, there's a guy who wrote a brilliant book about breaking down Heidegger. It's a simple guide to being in time, which is a brilliant kind of synopsis. Because Heidegger had this real, I believe he had his hands on what it is to be a human being. I really do believe he was the man. I'll give you actually a few more than just 2 or 3 though. There's anything by the Stoic philosophers, just fucking anything. Go pick something brilliant. Just fucking, oh my gosh, makes so much sense, right?
Who was it? What was it?
By the Stoic philosophers, right? So going back, Epictetus and, you know, people like that, or even fucking Socrates and, you know, but any of the Stoic philosophy books are brilliant. But then there's a guy, Polish-German guy, Hans Georg Gadamer, Gidamer. I love reading him. But again, you know, like these are pretty intense philosophical books based in existentialism and phenomenology and ontology. But I love Sartre. Sartre's fucking brilliant. And you know, these, I mean, this is where I dwell. I don't dwell in, I want a book that's going to challenge the way that I think, not tell me what to do. And that's why I think I really like philosophy, because it, like I find myself disagreeing with most of it. So then I'm like, all right, I probably should spend some time thinking about this shit. I really like it. I think if you're immediately just agreeing, I don't know if you're adding anything. I mean, it might confirm some stuff to you. But believe it or not, like if I'm not reading philosophers, I'm reading fucking history books, you know. I'm like, I love to read, like, I've become a bit of a book collector, so I've got these old, like, I picked up these, like, 18th century books about Scotland, Glasgow, and I love to read, like, you know, what life was like back then. So I do love history. And there are some great, believe it or not, Scottish philosophers. So I tend to, like, follow guys like Hume, and, you know, I really am just a fucking philosophy buff. I'm like hopeless when it comes to, tell me a book that I should read. I'm like, I got nothing. I got fucking nothing. So yeah, I gave you
have you read Sapiens?
Yeah. I haven't read it, the whole fucking book, but you know, I've kind of dabbled through Sapiens. I don't see, one of the reasons why I won't read a modern book is because my brain will assimilate it, and 3 years from now I'll think it was my idea. I'm not kidding. Like, I'll be like, oh, I just had a moment of genius, and it was somebody else. I'm like, oh, you fucking asshole. So like, the last book that I would say I really devoured, you call a modern book, would be a Gladwell book, The Outliers.
Yeah, Outliers is pretty good.
Brilliant book, and a brilliant mind, and a smart guy, but it's a lot of data, which a lot of those kind of books are, but his conclusions were captivating. But no, you'll see me pottering about, like, just fucking old philosophers, boring old shit, you know. But to me, it's enlightening. I'm trying to find ways to unlock people's thinking and their ways of being and acting, and the way that I do that is through. And this is why this is the thing, I guess, that bugs me. Philosophy is more interested in itself. It's kind of like faith, or not faith, but religion. Like, religion's more interested in itself than who it actually might help, right? Faith is different. And philosophy's kind of like that. Like, you know, but guys like, oh, you mentioned this part in your book, and that really doesn't flow well with Heidegger. I'm like, fuck you. I mean, does it get somebody out of a hole? That's the question. I'm fascinated by the notion that all the wisdom you really need it already exists. You just need to get it into your vernacular and work out how it applies and put it into play.
Well, I think, and I know Jay's getting ready to get to the takeaways, but I, I'm pretty certain everybody is embracing the fact that they've met another pretty decent Scottish philosopher today by getting a chance to hear you. Um,
Thank you.
in the purest way, which quite frankly is kind of the way you always sound to me, but it's refreshing. So the Scottish philosopher Gary John Bishop is somebody that has impacted a whole bunch of people today. So
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, and Gary, that's exactly why I was so excited to get you on here, and you delivered as always, and as you always will. Agreed, Scottish philosopher. I caught myself with my mouth hanging open, listening to you, like I kind of did in the audience a couple times when I looked up at the screen, and I got a message from our producer that I need to pick my head up and look at the screen a little bit more often, because I just found myself listening and thinking about what you were saying. So I really, really appreciate your time on here, and I'm sure you're going to impact many lives with this. We're going to promote this, and people need to hear you, and a lot more people around the world need to hear you, and there needs to be a lot more billboards so that people can get in a room or on a Zoom or on your podcast. And please go follow Gary on Instagram, where he posts something every day. And he does videos, and you can hear him speak, and he does live. So anytime I see him live in my Instagram, I'm on listening to what he has to say, because his perspective is unique. So at this time, I'm just going to go through the takeaways, and I have a lot. So this is the ingredients for Gary John Bishop's success, and hopefully some people can steal some of these and change their thinking. So the first one is, you are on the right path, unless it's the drug path. But if you're on the path, you're on the path. People fight for being stuck. You have to have perspective. What do you want to leave Earth with is a question that you should be asking, and change it from fuck to something other than that. Try to empower others. Spend lots of time working on yourself. Fuck it, just do it. Whatever you resist persists. You become the person you identify with. Be careful. Become aware of the noise. Smile. That can change your state. Your thoughts are meaningless. Stop indulging in your own shit. Both feet in all you do. Function like you're all in. Focus on how we are all doing instead of how much you are doing. And let me repeat that. Focus on how we are doing instead of on how you are doing. Everyone has tremendous potential. Have relentless action. Take action every single day. If you're not motivated, do it anyway. Do it when you don't feel like it. Just fucking do it. You will fight to the death for the things that you believe. Put as much effort for what you can versus what you can't. It's not always about you. Take yourself out of the equation. The world is small if it's about you. Just be ready for the next play. The last one means nothing. Keep your word to yourself. There's no limit to what you can produce as long as you keep your word to yourself. You don't trust yourself like you're someone you should listen to. If someone treated you like you treated yourself, you would never be your own friend. Build a relationship with your word. Your job is to take a stand for yourself. Your job is to take a stand for yourself. Sorry, that was separated. Get up when you wake up. Write something you want to say every day and keep a journal. And the three things that you want to leave with your kids and everyone else is to be of service. It doesn't mean anything. Don't need to believe in yourself. Do great things. Just give fully. And love like there is no tomorrow. Let me see. Did I miss anything?
These are like all the
Nope, I didn't
pages I
miss
turned
anything.
down in all of your books, Gary, just so you know.
Yeah, all those philosophers. I did not win spelling bees when I was in school, so I didn't even try to write those down. People are gonna have to listen for all those books.
You went to school, my friend. That's pretty good on its own.
Yeah, I was lucky to go to school. And I would tell you one of my biggest takeaways as I end this is, I didn't graduate from college, and to hear someone that also didn't go to college is a New York Times #1 bestseller, writing books, should let everyone know out there that anything is possible. Like Gary said, like he beat himself up, said he wasn't smart enough, and you just have to fucking do it. And that's my biggest takeaway, is just get in the game, just walk into the water neck deep, and once you're in it, play the game. And that, my friends, are ingredients to Gary John Bishop's success, which is probably, and for me, some of the best takeaways so far. And I appreciate the hour, and it's actually been 2 hours because you had all kinds of technical difficulties,
Oh, we
Gary.
had that. We didn't have to really bring that up. I
Did I?
see,
I
see,
didn't mean.
Gary. That's
I did
what.
not mean. I did
That's
not
what.
mean to.
Yeah, he knew the
Sorry,
the
Gary.
mic is hot. The mic is hot. Yeah.
But
Jesus
anyways,
Christ.
Gary, we appreciate you, man. You are a the comments that we have in here about you being funny, about you being so great. There's a lot of comments, and you have a lot of fans, my friend. So thank you again, man. You are a true philosopher.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. And I don't know, maybe next time I'll get the camera and I might even put a shirt on or something. No, but I don't have a shirt on, just not as nice as you guys. You guys are always well dressed.
And thank you for that image as we close. Gary John Bishop with no shirt on. Thank God this camera is not working today. I don't know. I'll just add that to the ingredients for success, maybe.
Awesome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.